After the fall of the Galactic Empire, a lone gunfighter makes his way through the outer reaches of the lawless galaxy. The Mandalorian has become synonymous with Stoicism, often quoted and mentioned on Stoic forums and pages. But let's find out if the Mandalorian really is a Stoic. Once upon a time, there was a wealthy merchant named Zeno, who sailed the seas of his ship laden with valuable goods. However, fate had other plans for him. One fateful day, a storm brewed on the horizon, and as the tempest grew in strength, it unleashed its fury upon Zeno's ship. The waves tossed and turned, the wind howled mercilessly. Despite the best efforts, the ship was no match for the power of the storm, and it was wrecked. Zeno survived but was stranded ashore in Athens, his body battered and bruised, his heart heavy with grief and uncertainty. He had lost everything he had worked so hard to accumulate, his wealth, his possessions, and his sense of security. Feeling lost and adrift, Zeno wandered the streets of Athens, searching for meaning and purpose. It was then that he chanced upon a bookstore, and inside he discovered the works of the great philosophers. Fate would have it that after leaving the bookstore, Zeno would encounter Crates, who was a famous cynic at the time. This shipwreck was the foundations that Zeno built Stoicism off. Zeno developed Stoicism, which emphasized living in accordance with nature and the natural order of things. It taught that the key to a good life was living virtuously, and that true happiness and contentment were found not in external things, but in living a life of wisdom and virtue. The founding Mandalorians worshipped the destroyer god, Kad Harangir, who represented the opportunity for change and growth that destruction provided. It was the same destruction of Zeno's shipwreck that would be the catalyst for his transformation, leading him to a deeper understanding of himself and the world around him. So Zeno found what the ancient Mandalorians taught to be true. Strength is life, for the strong have the right to rule. Honor is life, for with no honor one may as well be dead. Death is life, one should die as they have lived. This is the Mandalorian code of honor. The Stoics too taught of strength, honor, and death. Memento mori, as the Stoics say. Always remember death. It gives our lives meaning, it gives us power. So why has Mando become synonymous with Stoicism? Because of Stoicism's biggest myth, where people confuse the Hellenistic philosophy of Stoicism with a character trait described as being Stoic. According to Google, Stoic, a person who can endure pain or hardship without showing their feelings or complaining. Stoic, a member of the ancient philosophical school of Stoicism. The difference is the S at the start. Stoicism or Stoic that's based off the school of thought is a big S, and Stoic, the character trait, is a little s. So you may hear it described as Stoic with the big S or Stoic with the little s. But we are here to talk about Stoic with the big S. The Mandalorian is built off the Western trope of the Lone Ranger, battling for a harsh environment, fighting for survival. The Lone Ranger is cold, tough, rugged, and a few words. So people think that Mando is Stoic because of this little s description of someone who is stoic, harsh and cold. But I actually believe that Mando is also kind of Stoic with the big S. Firstly, Mando is a few words, like the typical Lone Ranger. He is concise and to the point. The way of speaking is described as laconic, a preferred style by the Stoics. This was in opposition to the sophists at the time, who used fancy words and emotive language to persuade the crowd. The Stoics, however, spoke concise, not to hide their words behind a pretty curtain. They taught that truth is a valuable commodity, and that the truth that they taught must not be hidden behind fancy words and emotions. I believe that Mando is very similar to one of Stoicism's greatest philosophers, Epictetus. He is known as one of the greatest practical philosophers throughout history, and I see so much resemblance in their life and their lifestyle and their character. Epictetus is known for his teachings in the Enchiridion and Discourses. He was a crippled slave turned philosopher. and he shares many similarities with Mando. Both lived a simple life, and both lived by an honor code. Although different, they encompassed a similar way of life. This is the way: courage, wisdom, temperance, and above all, justice. Love the truth and seek wisdom. Act with justice, fairness, and kindness towards others. Master your fears and be courageous. Master your desires and live with self-discipline. This is the way. Mando and Epictetus both followed a similar honor code. Mando had a devotion to justice, as did Epictetus and many of the other Stoics. This justice led Epictetus and Mando both down the same path. Both of them lived a solitary life until they adopted a child that without them would have been left for dead. Mando adopted Grogu and Epictetus adopted the child of a dead friend. Both children would have been left for dead without their protectors, Epictetus and Mando. Both followed their honor code. Both men, fiercely disciplined. Their strength of character and devotion to their honor code was highly regarded by all. The Stoics believed that we must control our impulses. One such way was by not overindulging and oftentimes controlling our appetite. Mando often goes without eating as he can't take his helmet off in front of others. The Stoics would call this voluntary discomfort. Both men, calm in even the most violent of situations. Why? Because they understood that it does no good to pay attention to things outside of our control. The chief task in life is simply this: to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals not under my control and which have to do with the choices I actually control. Where then do I look for good and evil? Not to uncontrollable externals, but within myself, to the choices that are my own. Epictetus. So is Mando a Stoic? Anyone can be a Stoic, and that's the point. That's what ties Mandalorian culture to Stoicism. Any race was welcome to be a Mandalorian. Just like Stoicism, Zeno taught to everyone. So during the time when only the wealthy and elite had access to philosophy, Zeno would go out into public at the Stoa Proeculi, the painted porch, where he would teach Stoicism to anyone, to men, women, rich, poor. Everyone was welcome to learn of the philosophy of Stoicism. The idea is that society can benefit from this philosophy of Stoicism. So it is a disservice to hide it from the people that need it most. The average person that needs the access to this philosophy to better their life and the life of the people around them. And the idea was the same with the Mandalorians. Any race was welcome to be a Mandalorian. As long as you followed their honor code, then you were known as a Mandalorian. And that is the same with Stoicism. As long as you live the life in accordance with the Stoic virtues and a life in accordance with nature, then you too are a Stoic. Today's video is sponsored by the Memento Mori life calendar, which you can get in the description. It's a calendar that counts down every week of your life. The idea is Memento Mori, as the Stoics say. Remember death. It is the remembrance of death that gives our life purpose, meaning, gratitude, and importance.